afternoon and happy Sabbath, Covenant Advent Church. And good afternoon and happy Sabbath to those of you who've joined us online. Welcome back for our afternoon study. Thank you for joining, and I pray you'll be blessed as we worship together. We will start with hymn number 538. Please take your hymnals in hand and turn to hymn number 538. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah, pilgrim through this barren land. I am weak, but thou art mighty. Hold me with thy powerful hand. Bread of heaven, feed me till I want no more. Feed me till I want no more. Open now the crystal fountain, whence the healing stream doth flow. Let the fire and cloudy pillar lead me on my journey through. Strong deliver, be thou still my strength and shield. Thou still my strength and shield. When I tread the verge of Jordan, bid my anxious fear subside. Death of death and hell's destruction, land me safe on Canaan's side. Songs of praises, I will ever give to thee. I will ever give to thee. Amen. I'll now pass it over to Pastor Lloyd Grubb, who will continue from this morning's presentation.
So good afternoon again, everyone, and welcome again to our talk, to those here online. And we're talking about that we should avoid drugs, alcohol, and stimulants, and we'll pick up from where we left off, and then we continue. We left off early this afternoon. Let us pray again. Our Father, who art in heaven, we thank you again for your word and for the travels that you have brought us through and the experiences you've brought us through to bring us to this place where we can serve thee in clearness of mind and in sobriety. May you be with us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So avoid drugs, alcohol, and other stimulants. So we're going to pick up back again in Isaiah chapter, I think it was 5, and we'll go back there, we're right here. So Isaiah chapter 5, verse 11, it says, Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, and that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflame them. So just keep going. Today, we can definitely say that you probably don't have to go all day. You could just probably take a hit or two and you'll be inflamed. Woe unto them that call, in verse 20, that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that be wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify wicked for reward and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Psychotic symptoms in mass shooting versus mass murder not involve firearm. Findings from the Columbia Mass Murder Database, the Department of Psychiatry, Columbia University Irvine Medical Center. The abstract reads basically background. Mass shooting accounts for a small fraction of annual worldwide murders, yet disproportionately affects society and influence policy. Evidence suggests a link between mass shooting and severe mental illness, i.e. involves psychosis, with a person having some strange ideas, is often misrepresented, generating stigma. Thus, the actual prevalence constitutes a key public health concern. Method: we examine global personal cause of mass murder from 1900 to 2019, amassed by a review of 14,785 murders publicly described in English in print or online, and collected information regarding perpetrator demographics, legal history, drug use, alcohol use or misuse, history of symptoms of, because they can use alcohol, I guess, use it properly, symptoms of psychiatric and neurologic illness using standardized methods. We distinguish whether firearms were or were not used, and if so, the type, non-automatic or versus semi versus full automatic. And what did they find in this review? They find that we identified 1,350 mass murders, 65% of which involve firearms. So most mass murder is not knife or machete, is it firearms. I think a mass murder is 5 people or more that get killed. What I've noticed now, lifetime psychotic symptoms were noted among 11% of perpetrators. So that means less than 89% of them didn't have psychosis. Consistent with previous reports, including 18% mass murders who did not use firearm, and 8% of those who did. So that some percentage used firearm. US-based mass murder shootings were more likely to have legal history, use of recreational drugs, or misuse of alcohol. So what we notice here is that more likely to have a legal history of use of recreational drugs, right? So when we talk about mass murders, what is it saying? That a lot of the mass murders were hamped up on drugs, right? Or misuse, because they're saying it's a proper use for alcohol. We do not believe this. We believe all alcohol use is improper unless it's for some type of process, chemical process to build something or something, for some fermentation process. But to use internally, ingestion, we don't believe this. And have history of non-psychotic, psychiatric, or neurologic symptoms. So the person was experiencing some type of psychosis. In other words, it must be psychosis for you to go into a school, daycare, nursing home, and shoot the place up. Because most mass murders will use guns. Notice here again, it says US-based mass shooters with symptoms of any psychiatric or neurologic illness more frequently use semi and full automatic firearm. So the person is going out with a bang, right? So mental illness, and then they're more likely use semi-automatic, because what they're going for, big kills, right? Right, so they're hamped up on drugs, having psychosis, they're not in touch with their mind, and then they're killing. So when you look at mass murders, you're just looking at something where the majority of people doing this, they're using semi, full automatic, and they have a mental health problem, psychosis. They're not in full touch with control of their mind, and they're on drugs. Conclusion, these results suggest that policies aim at preventing mass shooting by focusing on serious mental illness characterized by psychotic symptoms may have limited impact. Policies such as those targeting firearms access, recreational drug use, and alcohol misuse, legal history, and non-psychotic psychopathology might yield more substantial results. So what they're saying is that if you focus now, not so much on people with mental illness, but more people who have a psychotic problem based upon things like drugs and alcohol use. They keep saying misuse, but alcohol use, you will get better results. So are we gonna see less mass murders if we prognosticate here? The more they legalize recreational drugs and the more the drugs become more powerful, are we gonna see more? Because I remember a person say, they're on drugs and they say, something is telling me to go kill people. I hear voices in my head. Are they hearing voices in their mind, Ed? Yeah, they're hearing voices. No, you can't prove that now because you don't know what's going on in their head. They're on drugs. They don't even know if they're hearing voices. The drugs is speaking to them. And it's speaking volume. Proverbs 20 verse 1 says, wine is a mocker and strong drink is raging. And whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Can you can you use properly something that make you become a mockery? As I say, a mockery, and also make you rage. Can you use something like that properly? Can you have control over something that when you take the substance in your body, it make you make a mockery of self? As I said, I'm sure you've seen it, where somebody's going forward from their waist down, but from their waist up, they're going backward. And when you see it, it's amazing. It's a gymnastic, and you don't know the person will fall, because the person is walking forward, but their top of their body is moving backwards. You want me to display it for you? No. Oh, sorry. You want me to? So wine is a mocker, and you show me a person making a mockery of themselves, and you show me a person drunk. And strong drink is raging. So what is a strong drink? We'll cover this in a few minutes. Energy White writes here in Ministry of Healing, written 1905, by the use of poisonous drugs, many bring upon themselves lifelong illness, and many lives are lost that might be saved by the use of natural methods of healing. The poisons contained in many so-called remedies create habits and appetites that may mean ruin to both soul and body. Many of the popular nostrums called patent medicine, and even some of the drugs dispensed by physicians, act a part in laying the foundation of the liquor habit, the opium habit, the morphine habit, that are so a terrible curse upon our system, or upon our society. So we see here that recently with the opiates, what the opiates did, they create this drug epidemic that we lose over 100 and something thousand people every year in America. But these were coming from legal drugs prescribed by the doctors. The person go to the doctor, they have a pill for every ill. The person start taking whatever opioid, Percocet, oxymorphine, OxyContin, whatever it is. Then the person develop a taste for that type of, substance or that type of feeling. And the thing affect certain receptors in their brain and burn them out or fry them or get them where they're so excited that they need more excitement. And then they go and find some morphine, some liquor, some opium, something to do it. Have you ever seen somebody smoking, they're drinking, they're taking drugs, it's everything. They're smoking weed, they're smoking tobacco, they're taking alcohol, and they're taking gin, vodka, rum. And you say, man, it's amazing how much substance a person can take in. But the person looked beaten down. In Genesis 3, verse 6 and 7, again, we read, and when the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eyes and the tree to be desired to make one wise. Notice here, to make one wise. It's going to open up, as they say in the drug world, the third eye. If I say the third eye, remember, there's no such thing. I don't believe that, but that's what they say. The third eye, and she looked, and she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband and with her, and he did eat, he partook. And that's why you have to be careful what you're married to and who you're married to. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So they realized something changed inside of them, but they had a brand new experience, and they have an elevated experience. That's what sin is, because this is the basis of not just drugs, but it's the base of almost all sin. Imagine if you could just roll the dice and win $10,000. Can that be addictive? Yeah, because to make $10,000, you'd have to work hours and hours and hours. And then still the government will take tax. And you just do that, and roll the dice, and you win $10,000. That can be very addictive. Something changed. The moment you partake of substance, something will change inside of you, because you realize that there's good and there's evil. But the good, you start chasing that high. And the more you chase the high, the more the high eludes you. But there's some good there, and the good is enough to keep you coming back, even though you know, oh, this is risky. And I'm sure the next person going to die because they jump off some building and then try to open up a parachute. When they land, you think it makes them want to jump again? What they call base jump, right? Building, what's the A stand for? Antennas, S. Skyscrapers, and E stand for, they do base jump. E stand for something else. Bridges, I think is bridges. Bridge, B-A-S-E is base jumping. Now, the moment they land, Guess what he tells them to do next? So building antenna span on earth, because they could jump off of a side of a cliff or a bridge. So you jump off one of those, you go to, say, New York City and figure out how to get a parachute up to Empire State Building. I think you can't do it anymore after September 11. And you jump off of there and you land in the middle of the street with the parachute on your back and you land safe. What do you encourage you to do next? You go, whoa, man, that's a rush. Right? If you get locked up, that's a rush. And you're going to make it probably in the newspaper. Right? Then what building are you going to jump off next in New York? One Trade Center, right? Right? And don't tell him I told you to do it. And you go there and you jump off of that. And you're like, man, that's a rush. You'll get locked up for a few weeks, whatever. You're going to jump off of, next thing you know, George Washington. Don't land in the water, though. That's a rush. You see, sin has a, stolen bread is sweet, right? Right? Oh, man, that steal was good. I just got free bread. Right? Stolen bread is sweet. And what do it tell you next? Do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Today you're going to die. That's how Satan works. So the moment human beings open up this kind of worms, we've been dealing with drug and alcohol since. Or we're dealing with eating forbidden fruit. Somebody tell you, don't eat that. And somebody look at you, you'll be like, why? You're trying to hide something from me. Right? You're trying to hide something from me because you're trying to tell me not to eat it. Because recently I saw somebody end up in the hospital, I think, for eating some alligator meat. And I was thinking, yeah, that makes sense. Why wouldn't you want to eat, not a praying mantis, but the manatee inside of a nice piece of bread, two slices of bread? Why not? Because it's forbidden. But if you eat it and you have this experience, like you saw this guy, he had win a contest eating cockroaches. And after he finished win the contest, he faint and vomit up out of the cockroach and die. He won. Eating cockroach, eat the most cockroach within a few minutes. Right? Why? Because why not? I would say just get some net and catch some mosquitoes and then cook them and eat them. Then tell me what it is. Oh man. Or just get a cup and vomit in a cup and then drink it. And then that's really the ultimate. They did that too. I know people do that. Because if you tell a sinner don't do it, they say probably you're trying to keep something away from me. Right? You just go to the zoo and start killing some of the animals and eat them. So drugs and alcohol trick you into thinking you are having a better experience than you really are. Is that so? Like say for instance, if it's 90-something degrees, are you going to be more dehydrated? Yes. And if you're thirsty, what you should drink? You sure it's not vodka? Or you add the water to the vodka to the water? You go out to your problems. And you can see how life goes. Because normally they say there's a bar is a watering hole. You say a watering hole is something that you think a horse or a camel to. This trick you can pull off without drugs. This trick you cannot pull off without drugs and alcohol. And you become long-term dependent upon the trick effect. And you stay tricked. So what happens is that a person who's using drugs and alcohol, they have a trick that they're pulling off. And what they basically do, they're tricking their mind to make the world feel better or experience better than what it is. Or a different experience. They're going to an alternative experience, right? But after a while, they become addicted to the trick. And now they're stuck now because they need the trick in order for them to feel good about life or have that experience. And so now they're addicted to the trick. Now let me ask you this. Can church be like this? Or is your best days ahead of you? Not always, right? So what if the pastor trick you and make you believe that your best days are ahead of you? But when you leave the church, you go back to reality. Could you get addicted to that type of church service? Why? Do you feel good? Why some of the best days ahead of you churches are in some of the worst neighborhoods in the world and in the country? Because the people need to be tricked into to be told a philosophy and a doctrine that they can go to church and when they come back they have the trick So when they can reinterpret the world the way it is, or the way it is in their mind, because they're under a trick. And that's the problem with drugs and alcohol. It is similar to philosophy. You can be philosophically get the wine, or you can philosophically get some philosophy, or you can do drugs. So drugs do it. That's why I read earlier that the person who is on the drugs or the influence of drugs, what they're doing is that they're putting themselves under permanent trick. And they keep getting tricked out. Judges chapter 13, verse 2 through 4 states about Samson. And it says here, Judges chapter 13, verse 2 through 4, says, "And there was a certain man of Zorah, the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and bare not. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto the woman and said unto her, Behold now, thou art barren and bearest not, but thou shalt conceive and bear a son. And now therefore beware, I pray thee, drink not wine nor strong drink, and eat not anything unclean." So when you eat something unclean, or you drink wine or strong drink and stuff like that, it's going to give you an altered experience, and it's going to give some damage to you. This is why, if you notice, they have not this dealt with in the United States why the birth rate has gone down, why there's so many birth defects, and why there's so many autism and all these different type of diseases, neurological diseases. Because remember, most of what we're talking about here, drugs and alcohol, are neurological agents that affect neurologically. And if you've ever seen this, we live in a culture where people will drink themselves to the ground. Young people are winos. So when I was younger, a person is a wino is a person that would be normally an older person that's been doing alcohol for years, and he's become now used to it, so to speak, and he just can't live his life where he just drink to the ground. But yet we have in a culture where you could have a 21-year-old, 22-year-old that will just regular, even 16-year-olds, 16, 17-year-olds will just drink themselves until they're flat on the ground. Right? Now, if a female doing that in her development years, is she putting her fetus that's she going to have later on in life at risk? Right? Then, if she's 22 as an example, so that's already past a year past a legal age, she's drinking all this alcohol and taking all these drugs. Do you expect her to side child? If she side child, could the child come up with disability? Does is that a conspiracy theory, or is that the reality of what we're seeing going on? Right? Because we have not heard, I'm not hearing anybody address this fact that why there need to be so many fertility clinics, why there need to be so many things to deal with young men, women that can't have children. And then years ago, I remember reading a book and they were talking about how that they thought that when there's a female that can't get pregnant, or if they have a child, the child's going to come up with all type of disability and development and problem, they thought it was the men, the women that's causing it. Then they start finding out that the men are 50% of the time to be blamed. Because it's easy for a guy to, when he's young, they do frat parties and frat house, and all they're doing is drinking and taking drugs. And now the country is paying a heavy price for that, because the amount of kids with developmental problem is burdensome even to the school system. But what's causing all this neurological problem is consuming all these neurological agents. So we find that this is what's happening. Notice here, alcohol, also known by its chemical name ethanol, is a psychoactive substance that is active ingredient in drinks such as beer, wine, distilled spirits, hard liquor. It is one of the oldest and most common recreational substance, cause the characteristics of alcohol intoxication, which is drunkenness. Among other effects, alcohol produces mood lift and euphoria. Is that positive? Can alcohol produce mood lift and euphoria? Right. Decrease anxiety. So when a person is anxious, can they calm themselves down by drinking some alcohol? I saw this for myself up front. It will take away anxiety. It increases sociability. Is somebody more social when they're on alcohol? So let me say something here that's I think is important for certain discussions. Could a female put herself in a situation where she's more vulnerable to sexual abuse when she drinks alcohol? Could a male be more susceptible to sexually abuse a female or even another male, sad to say, when he's drinking alcohol? Yeah, because remember, it's a mockery. It makes a mockery of you. If you take substance, not ecstasy or MDMA as they call it, but alcohol, just alcohol, it makes you feel more euphoria. It increases your mood. It decreases your anxiety. So you're, to think, oh man, am I sure? Am I doing the right thing? You're more confident, right? And it increases your social ability. So that you start to prance around like a horse and want to jump onto people like your two horses. Could that create sexual abuse? So you could have people being charged for sexual abuse. Now, I'm not trying to excuse them, but they are under the influence. What if you have a female and she drink to the point that she's on the ground? Literally. And then there's a guy, he drink until he's on the ground, and he find himself on the ground on top of her. Is this possible? Now they have a child, and child comes out with all kind of neurological problem. And they're only 20-something. This is what we're dealing with. Notice here, it's called sedation. What is sedation? It's when you feel like you want to sleep. And you can see people, you have a picture in your mind, a video in your mind of somebody under the alcohol. This person have any, what I just described to you here, this person have any much restraint? A person that's fallen apart, and you're down by wildwood, and you're falling asleep, and you have no euphoria and sedation. What could happen, good or bad? Because remember, this is good and this is evil. Notice here, impairment of cognition. What is cognition? You can recognize the situation you're in. You know, you're walking on the street and you start hearing they're playing with a Michael Jackson song. And it's nighttime and you hear a howl, the wolf howling. And you be like, wait a minute, am I in a music video? And then you start seeing people coming around and doing stuff with their shoulders. Then you say, I think I'm in a music video. This is real. This is what's going on. You know, how does some people drink? And as they said, they're in one area of the Jersey Shore, ended up in another. No, they were taking drugs. And they're in one area of the Jersey Shore and ended up in another area. I don't know how they got there. Might as well somebody had just kidnap them and take them somewhere to Utah and start abusing them sexually. These are the things that happen to people. Impair your cognition. It affects memory. The absence of the mind. The mind just starts to go. You start losing your cognition. It's your frontal lobe. You start losing, where's the temporal lobes and stuff like that. Your ability to remember. Motor, right? You know, this is really good and evil. Motor, so your ability probably to touch your nose or to walk in a straight line. What does the police do? Say walk in a straight line. You ever see the video the guy start dancing? You ever see that video? Right, and the police tell him to dance and he start dancing. Your memory and your motor, your sensory function, and generalized depression of your nervous system. So is this something that you see good there because will you want your nervous system to be depressed? Why not? Or generalized, you just bring down. So notice here, this is alcohol content, beer 2 to 6%, cider 4 to 8%, wine 8 to 20%, tequila. All right, this is made from agave. This is 40% rum. I think most of the time rum made from sugarcane, 40+% more. Brandy, 40 more. Gin, 40 to 47%. Whiskey, 40 to 50%. Vodka, 40 to 50%. Liqueurs, 15 to 60%. Liqueurs is interesting because these are like, it could be a fruity drink that is sweet. In Jamaica, they used to call them like rum punch. So it's rum with some nice fruity drink. So you drink it, whatever. You see recently, I think Starbucks is pulling, is it Starbucks or is the other company, Chipotle? They're pulling from the menu because they have it's like a lemonade, but the lemonade has about the equivalent of 3 cups or 3 cups of coffee worth of caffeine. and it causes somebody to have a heart failure. It's Panera bread. It's the bread people, Panera bread. So you go to Panera bread, get a coffee that is a lemonade that's spiked with caffeine, but it has literally 3 cups, the equivalent of 3 cups of caffeine in it. You drink it, and people who have heart problems start having heart palpitation. And I think he killed somebody, if my memory serves me right. And so they have to pull it. I think they're going to pull it sometime this month or next month. Soon they're going to pull it from the market. So you have to go and get your filling before they pull something that could kill you. So notice here, alcohol is a drug. It is classed as a depressant. So alcohol is a drug. And I know this is something I've covered before in the past, meaning that it slows down your vital functions. So your vital function is being depressed, resulting in slurred speech. You can't control your tongue. Imagine now somebody keep doing this to themselves. Have you ever seen somebody when you knew them when they were younger and they were getting slow, but within 10, 20 years, they're just gone slow? Because they constantly depress the nervous system. So after a while, the nervous system stays in a depressed state. Unstable movement. And you can see a person after a while, they do these drugs, alcohol, they start becoming unstable in their movement. Disturbed perception. So he's not there. You know, when I was younger, they would say that people have meat on their head. But what I realized is that, say, long-term use of alcohol, you could have alcohol in your head, where your brain just never worked the same way as it worked when you were young. And the inability to react quickly. See that? Did I catch it? Oh, I didn't catch it, sir. And as how it affects the mind, it's best understood as drug that reduces a person's ability to think rationally. That's why it fights against is war against your soul. And distorts his or her judgment. That's why people with drugs and alcohol, it distorts judgment. So long-term effect of alcohol. Alcohol use also leads to more lasting concerns that extend beyond our own mood and health. Some long-term effects of frequent drinking alcohol can include persistent change in mood, including anxiety and irritability. So the person is always anxious and it becomes permanent. They cannot stop being anxious. The Bible says you should be anxious for nothing. They will never be able to deal with that because they're permanently anxious. Insomnia and other sleep concerns. They can't sleep at night. A weakened immune system, meaning you might get sick more often. So the person constantly gets sick more often because the whatever. Change in libido and sexual function. Remember, it's a central nerve what? Killer. You dead, right? You see the problem there? Because the central nerves is being sedated. So anything to do with anything that you need to have awakeness is going to be dead. So libido and sexual function, change in appetite and weight. Most of the time you see people, probably more in the 40s and 50s, that are regular drinkers of alcohol. They look burnt out and look shriveled up like a prune. Is that true? You've seen that, right? Problem with memory and concentration. So a person, long-term effects now, memory and concentration. Difficult focusing on tasks, so they can't think. You read this and you say, is this dealing with marijuana? No, it's not. It's actually alcohol. This is like the same thing for marijuana. All these things are there for our central nerve depressant. Increased tension and conflict in romantic and family relationship. This is why men who drink alcohol and even women, they all keep fighting. They do like this and wipe off the lipstick off their mouth and start fighting. Have you ever seen that? Alcohol. So this now is, again, Wikipedia Commons here. Some breakdown of alcohol. So social harm. Alcohol causes a plethora of detrimental effects in society. It is highly associated with drinking in public, passive drinking, drunk dialoguing, drunk driving, sexual risky risk taking. So sexual risk taking, as you say, is if you're drunk, what are you going to do? Because remember, when it says that you could behold strange woman when you drink alcohol, does that include transvestite? I've ever seen somebody say that they're not homosexual, but they were caught buying transvestite for prostitution. What's going on there? Probably they're not homosexual, but they probably look at the transvestite and say, I'd like to try that, just like you to try pig or goat or cow, right? You just try, it's a different type of meat. Does that make sense? No? Drug facilitated sexual assault, which is especially with caffeinated alcohol drinks. Fascinating. And both violence and non-violent crime. About 1/3 of arrests in the United States involve alcohol misuse. Many emergency room visits also include alcohol use. So when people drink alcohol, they load up the emergency rooms. And they say that marijuana, what I was covering last week, that 5 in 6 person that goes to the emergency room for psychosis that are below 21, I think 5 in 6 are, if my memory serves right, are happening there because of marijuana. So alcohol, marijuana put a lot of young people in the emergency room. Alcohol is, when we talk about social harm caused by alcohol, alcohol is the leading thing that causes social harm. Second would be heroin, then crack cocaine, methamphetamine, cocaine, tobacco, amphetamine, cannabis. So cannabis is about mid-range, where people do damage to other people or to themselves. So when we talk about social harm, we talk about harm to others or harm to oneself. So if you notice here, crack cocaine causes people to do more harm to themselves than they do to others. Marijuana, they cause people to do more, alcohol, cause people to do more harm to others than they do to themselves. Does that make sense, what we're looking at here? So that's what it is. So lowest on the list is mushroom. People who use mushroom, they do more harm to themselves than they do to others. LSD, same thing. And we would say probably GHB. I can't remember what that is. But now we talk about cannabis, people more do harm to others and to themselves and less to others. But alcohol is mostly you do it to others. The damage people do on alcohol. Heroin, I think, is more to yourself. Crack cocaine, methamphetamine, tobacco, so forth and so on. So you can see that. Oh, this one is what's interesting. Notice there, low down on this is anabolic steroids. Most people who use anabolic steroids do harm to themselves and not to others. You know, they call it roid rage. Probably the roid rage, I just break. What somebody told me, they punched into a door, but it was a solid door. I think they broke some bones in their hand and stuff like that. But that should be like shocking. You know, most internal doors are hollow, right? So if you're having an argument with your wife and you really want to prove to her that you're upset, just punch through an internal door. But if you make a mistake and forget that, so you have changed one of those doors to a side door and punch through that door, you will end up at the hospital, especially if you really did a good punch. So you can look at my face. I have no cuts on my face, so I've never done that. So Revelation chapter 17, verse 4. Revelation 17, verse 4. But somebody I knew told me that I think he made a mistake and hit a part of the door that didn't go in, didn't break through. And he said, I think he broke some bones in his hand. So that has to be painful. You know, you hit that door, hit it hard. Revelation chapter 17, verse 4 and 5 says, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and decked in gold and precious stones and pearls, and having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abomination of the filthiness of her fornication. So she has her cup in her hand, and she's passing that cup. So this language takes us right back to Genesis chapter 3. Because it is in Genesis chapter 3 we get this idea that the woman, she takes off the tree. This is the narrative of the Bible, as I say. She takes off the tree, and she eats first. And she says, oh, I like this. And she gives to her husband. Here you find a woman again, arrayed in purple scarlet. And she's decked out in precious stone. Here she don't look like a little angel, but she like a little other word. And she takes now, in her hand, she have a cup full of the filthiness of her fornication. Now I don't know why John write like this, because after probably church, I'll tell you what my imagination brings to my mind. When I said, how did she get that stuff in the cup? But she gets, the cup says it's a golden cup full of the abominations. Abomination means something that's disgusting. And then it says filthiness of her fornication. Fornication means illicit relationships. It's something that she's doing and endorsing and preaching and teaching. And she give it to the people drink. And then later on, I didn't include it here, he says she's drunken with the blood of the martyrs and with the blood of the saints. And she's given that drunkenness to people, because notice you have to, when you do something forbidden, it can lead to a euphoric experience. Does that make sense? This is something forbidden. So let's imagine you're not supposed to kill the saints. But what if you kill the saints? Could it be a powerful experience to the sinner? And people want to have it? Why do people buy child pornography? Because it's forbidden. It's something that seems shocking. You're having the forbidden fruit. Remember, all of this has to do with having a forbidden fruit. This is where we started with sin. All sin is based upon this concept that if you shouldn't do it, you should do it, and you might get a good experience from it. If they tell you, don't take crack, what are you going to do? Take crack. Why are you going to take crack? Because you're not supposed to do it. That's sin. That's the core of sin. Sin is, if I come up here and I tell you, don't smoke dope, what are you supposed to do? So why is he telling me not to smoke dope? It's on your feet. Why is he telling me not to smoke dope? I might be trying to tell you to not get an experience that you want to get, that you should have. I'm probably lying to you. I'm probably trying to get you not to partake of that forbidden fruit, because I probably want all of it for myself. Don't take cocaine because there's going to be more for me. The dealer's going to have to cut the cost because they're not selling, right? I'm just trying to trick you all not to buy so that I can get all the cocaine for myself. Does that make sense? That's a forbidden fruit, right? Why do people do these things? Because it's forbidden. It's anathema. You know, to me, that's why I think like people do rock and roll. Because in a world where it's conservative and people, you know, you have the people living in Mayberry. Mayberry they live, right? You know the people that live in Mayberry? And they have straw hats, and they have a pitchfork, and they have like whatever, and they look like conservative Christians. You know, who do people live in Mayberry? What's their name? And now they tell you, don't listen to rock and roll, these transvestite men with tights, and they bite your head off bats. That's rebellion. And they make you want to listen more because it's forbidden. Because that's what sin is. Sin is you want to eat that forbidden fruit. Because the moment God says, do not eat it, and Satan say, yeah, but God is keeping back the fruit from you. If you eat it, your eyes will be open, and you'll be able to be as gods, to know good and evil. But now, Adam and Eve never say, oh, what do you mean evil? What is evil? Well, you know it when you eat the fruit, right? So when you see the people on the side of the street, they use like, oh, they know what evil is. Yeah, that is evil. Does that make sense? That's a forbidden fruit. So now if you see somebody on the side of a building and they have a little baby in their hand doing like this, on the side of a building, and they're like 10 stories up, why do they want to sometimes show that on TV? If the person doing like this with a baby, why do you think they want to show something like that on TV? What is that word about? Well, other people will see it and say, I want to know what it feels like to take a baby and fling the baby off the side of a skyscraper or something. See, that's sin for you. Sin for you, no matter how crazy you can tell people that say, that's crazy. Somebody will be like, why? Why is that crazy? And I'm in America. It's a free country. We'll be free to do what we want to do any old time. Take every drugs. And we can see the zombie apocalypse going on in places like Philadelphia and Skid Row. And we can say these are the people who have come to the point where they say, I'll take any drugs anytime because nobody should tell me I'm living in a free country. That's America for you. And upon the forehead was written the name Mystery, because it's mysterious. Babylon, very confusing. The mother of harlots. That means that she has a lot of daughters. And the abomination of the earth. Because now you can go around. Was it forbidden once upon a time recently to have tattoos? Yes. Only rebels youth have tattoos. People in the Navy and criminals. People, you know what I mean? Say if you saw people with tattoos in their face. I don't know why they said this. They go tell the society that if you put tattoos in your face, you must be a mass murderer and people who want to kill kids and stuff like that. So guess what people start doing? They start putting tattoos in their face. And the funniest thing is that you see a person that look like a nerd or they look like they're mentally ill. Right? Have you ever seen the video of the guy that's the Joker? And he's suing, I think, Electronic Arts because they used him in a movie. He's some production show he's suing because they used him, but he's a literal person that has his whole face covered in tattoos. And he looked like he should be checked out at a doctor. Hopefully you're not watching and go sue me. But this is what it is. It's the joke. And you think about it, was like, that's a movie, bro. And he went and go do the movie thing to himself. Or he became part of a movie. And I think he's suing a movie company, some production company, for using his likeness. And when you look at it, you say, yeah, they actually covered him well. So this is what sin does. Sin makes you like, if you hear something that is forbidden, you want to partake of it. And all of us are tempted like this. There's something that we all are tempted on, that tomorrow we're going to have to be faced with this thing. Should we have this forbidden fruit? All of us are tempted on that. Because why not? Does that make sense? Revelation 18 verse 23 says, and the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants, the businessmen, were the great men of the earth, for by their sorceries, or the original languages for pharmakia, were all the nations deceived by thy pharmakia or pharmaceuticals. Because of pharmaceuticals is a proper definition of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Because every pharmaceutical you can use, every drugs, legal or illegal, can use, have both negatives and positives. And the tree of life had both negative and positive. And that's the trick from day one to now. You and I still have to deal with this trick. Should we partake of things that have negative and positive? Does that make sense? That's the question. And some of us deal with this question in ways that others don't have to deal with this question. If you have an allergy, what could be negative to you might not be negative to everybody else. Does that make sense? And that's what the problem is with sin. Because you could have something and you say, well, listen, if I eat that, I just start choking. It's very negative to me. Somebody's like, oh, it's good for me. Even on an individual level, it can become sin if you know that something is going to cause a problem. There's just certain things just mess with my skin, so I can't eat it. And I've learned the hard way. Because when I eat it, I feel terrible. When I don't eat it, I feel good. Some things I eat it, my energy level just drops. I stop eating it, give it a day, 2 days, my energy level comes back up. So what I've learned over the life the hard way, just don't partake. Because it affects me. But is it hard to not partake of it when everybody else is partaking of it? Yeah, very difficult. You're at a table and everybody's, oh, this tastes so good. And you'll be like, I know it tastes good because that's the good part. But what's the evil part? It doesn't agree with me. I be loving that thing, but it's not loving me. Right? Ain't that something? A lot of people, that's how they ended their marriage. They decided they're going to get a divorce. That's all life is. Oh, because they be loving that thing and that thing not loving them. And they decided we have to divorce it. And it's the same thing when it comes on to food. There's some food you eat it and you love that thing, but it ain't loving you back. And self-control and self-restraint tell you don't partake of that stuff. Listen, you could see people drinking alcohol. And they might tell you their full experience with it. But for you, you just have to say, listen, I have to just like allergies, I'm allergic to that. Like somebody say, it was Donald Jr. or whatever say, that he breaks out into handcuffs every time he drink alcohol. That's what it is. Like he said, every time you drink alcohol, something like that. He said it breaks out in the handcuff. Like, you know, people get hives, you get handcuffs when you drink alcohol. Revelation, oh no, I'm done with that. A psychoactive drug, psychopharmaceutical, psychotropic is chemical substance that change brain function and results in alterations in perception, mood, consciousness, cognition, or behavior. So you partake of a substance, it gets inside of you. Ain't this like the tree of knowledge of good and evil? You partake of a substance and it changes your way you perceive. Right? It heightens the feeling. You ever hear this thing that says, when the music hits you, you feel no pain? You ever heard that? Yeah, that's what they taught me when I was young in Jamaica. That's the education they gave me, right? In the streets. So when the music hits you, you feel no what? Pain. No, if you smoke some weed, that when the music hits you, you feel actually the music even sound better. I've heard people tell me that the music sounds different when you're on drugs. The bass line, the different parts, the cymbal, you hear it more clearly. Now I say I can hear clearly without drums. But they say because it altered their perception. You have a different perception. Okay, if you hear the music from India, they like a lot of that type of stuff. That's really drug music. This is why what's them called Beatles, they infuse a lot of the Hinduism into their music. Because remember, when you're in Jamaica they use the word ganja, it's really an Hindu way of saying marijuana. So you bring that, infuse that experience. Because remember, drugs and alcohol were used in worship. See, they're saying there's some people I've watched, I watch people who like to talk about drugs sometimes. And they will say that they believe they need to get back to shamanism, where you get a spiritual person to give you the experience. You can have the drugs in a proper sense. Because remember, when we read Revelation chapter 18, pharmacia would not be the way we see it, not in the sense of a pharmaceutical. Pharmaceuticals are separated from worship. But in the old time, pharmaceuticals was part of worship. Pharmacia was part of worship. Today, we just use the drugs independent. Because remember, a lot of drugs came from ayahuasca, magic mushroom. All these drugs were drugs used in worship. It was part of the heightened experience, because if you alter the perception, I don't know who was saying one day, they were listening to me. I think somebody I knew, they were listening to me, and I sound different to them when they're on drugs. I don't know, it's something about probably the cadence of where I talk and stuff like that. He says it's an enhanced experience listening to me. Yeah. Anyhow, enhanced experience listening. So what happens when you do worship and you start singing and chanting? Chants will work better when somebody's on drugs. Does that make sense? Don't practice it, I'm just saying. So in the pharmaceutical was used in worship to heighten the experience. Remember when they called for the head of John the Baptist? They had drink, the king was drunk and everything like that. He could not make a proper decision. So when we talk about now altered experience, what we have done, they say, we have removed the worship part from drugs, and now people are just using it recreationally. But a lot of time drugs was used in a worship environment. And so I've been predicting for years. And one of my prognostications from all of that, where I come conclude. You never hear this from anybody else, but I've come to this conclusion. And don't judge me if I'm wrong, but I've been calling that. So more and more you're going to find that we're going to see drugs being brought back into worship. So that's why I watch those videos, because I'm watching for that scene. Because remember, long shot here. In the end, we are told that Protestantism will reach all across the Gulf and grab what? And connect with who? Catholic Church. And they'll reach across the abyss and connect with what group of people? The spiritualists. And another that threefold union will have the end time. Well, when you understand spiritualism, you don't have spiritualism without drugs. A major part of spiritualism was always what? Drugs. Because, you see, like in Jamaica, when the Rastaman goes to do worship, what he does? He smoke weed and then he start to chant Nyabingi. It's the wrong cadence, I know. But my wife probably will give me the right cadence. Give me the right cadence. Anyhow, so he will chant the Nyabingi, but he smoke the weed and he enhance experience. Because remember, drugs alter perception, mood. Because if you really want to worship, probably take some crack and then go to church. And then you tell me if it enhances experience. Especially at church where people jumping up and down. Yeah. And then consciousness, cognition, and behavior. You can see the behavior will change. So if you're in a shaman, I can't do it right, but doing it, and you're under some weed or some crack or some meth or whatever, you see you're going to go. Because remember, when we say meth, crack, LSD is taken from, it's a synthesized isolate of a plant. And then they synthesize it. A lot of these heroin or opium is just a poppy leaf. And you isolate it. And then you use it in worship because it enhances worship. So the drums, the beat, the cadence. Think about it in most worship service. You don't want too much talking. You see, we do a lot of talking here. But that type of worship service is more, you're more jamming. It's more rhythmic. It's more just chanting. And when you're on the drugs, this is what you want to do. Think about somebody. You ever see somebody in worship on like heroin? Imagine you give them some music. See, that would work. You see what I'm talking about? No? these substances may be used medically, recreationally, or to purposefully improve performance, alters one consciousness as entheogens or spiritual experience for ritual, spiritual, or shamanic purposes or for research. Does that make sense? So this is I'm taking from Wikipedia. So the psychoactive drug. I'm not trying to prove anything unique here. If you're not familiar with this, it's a vast amount of study that I've been looking at over the years, because I've been saying the more Protestantism go away from God and they move towards Catholicism, which is shamanistic, really in its way to do church. Or you ever seen a Catholic worship service? They don't really do what we do here. They just chant. They're chanters. Well, that could describe a bunch of religions. You take some drugs with that, just as I say, I'm not telling somebody to do it, but take some cocaine and go to a worship, praise and worship service where they're singing. You think the service would be better? And the cocaine would be better? Cocaine experience would be better? You didn't see that? No, you don't believe it would be better? I'm convinced yet. So I've been predicting that we will see more drug use in the church. As one of my friends told me, that says after Sabbath, when they finish church, he and the deacons in the church, he said they go in the afternoon go smoke weed. A Sabbath, smoking weed on Sabbath. You see what I'm saying? So why next you could say after church, he and the deacons go smoke some crack or cocaine or meth or whatever. You think this is going on in church? You think it's going on in church? Oh, you don't know? Call your friends up. Galatians chapter 5, verse 19, I ask them what they're doing after church on Sabbath. Or before they go to church in the morning. Galatians 5, verse 19 through 20. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft. That word again, witchcraft, is also the word pharmakia. Because pharmakia is a major part of spiritual experience, including ritual and spiritual shamanistic experience. This is why in America, I don't know if you know, that the Supreme Court legalized shaman to use ayahuasca in their potions for worship service, because they proved that it was a major aspect of the worship service. So this has been tested in the Supreme Court in the United States. It's legal for you to go to a shamanistic experience in America. I think it was some shamans from New Mexico, and to take a potion, and then it's basically, if you look at the potion they use, it's a potion that is where they got LSD from, because they say the bush that they mix together to make the potion, they say miraculously it actually has the biological footprint or fingerprint of LSD. And you get that experience, you take it, and then they bring you through a spiritual experience, kind of a maze, and then you get to see different figures. And I think one person said they actually sat on the lap of Jesus, God. They didn't describe Jesus, but God. They said they got all the way to God. Very interesting. And they said that's how they felt, and they felt this thing. Have you ever seen this where people go to Jamaica and they take magic mushroom, which is psilocybin. That's what the main active ingredient in it. And it make you feel acceptance. Have you seen that? Yeah, so you go, when you have time, just go on there. So people leave from America, Europe, and they go to Jamaica, because it's illegal in certain places in Europe to use magic mushroom. But you can use it in Jamaica. And you can go there, and I'm not telling you to go there for other reasons. But go there, and you can now legally take magic mushroom, because it's not illegal in Jamaica. And what it does, the magic mushroom make you feel acceptance. And so when the person they were interviewing, they said they had a rough upbringing, and they didn't feel accepted by their family and by society. And so when they took the magic mushroom, it gave them a feeling of acceptance. You know what it is like to be accepted? You know what it's like to be rejected? Yeah. And you know what it's like to be accepted? Right? So that feeling you get is a neurological, chemical reaction that goes on in your brain. Right? And this person doesn't feel that. So because they don't feel that, when they take the mushroom, they have that sense that I'm accepted. Does that make sense? Is that an altered perception? Right? That's an altered perception, right? Because nothing changed in their life. but they wanted to feel accepted. And ever been somewhere that everybody knows your name? And everybody wants you around? Have you ever been like that? Where people like call your name, hey Daniel, man, what's going on? And we want you around. Don't you feel better? That chemical experience, if somebody never have that experience, they can just take magic mushroom and all of a sudden they feel accepted. And they could just go walk in the bush back there and they just feel accepted. And there's nobody around, but they just feel accepted. They feel the trees accept them. Isn't that altered experience? What if you stuck and your brain never recovered and you're permanently in a state of acceptance? And everywhere you go, you feel like people accept you. Would that be a good thing? You are moaning over there. You want me to finish? So anyway, adultery, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, and sedition. So you can see where the problem where people go mental ill. Because you can see the brain stuck to a point where you feel acceptance because of psilocybin. And now you're permanently accepted. Wouldn't that be mental illness? Because aren't you supposed to know when you're not accepted? Isn't that good for you and to protect you? It's for your protection because you should know that you're not wanted around here. Right? And someone said, boy, you need to get from around here. Boy, you're not wanted around here. What are you supposed to do? Leave. But what if you feel, oh, he loves me. He wants me around. Couldn't that be dangerous? And you go over to the person, hug the person. And the person is saying, beep, get out of here. And you're thinking, oh, he loves me so much. He's even screaming now because he loves me. See, that could be mental, that would be psychosis. They think you're mentally ill. Does that make sense? A psychoactive drug from a chemical substance that change the function of the brain resulting in alternate perception. Oh, I just read it. And notice here, DEA warning increased mass overdose events. Also, I talk about this, but it's an example that came up last year. It said fentanyl is killing Americans at an unprecedented rate, said DEA agent, DEA administrator, and Milgram. Already this year, numerous mass overdose events have resulted in dozens. So as I said, last week and the following week, previous week, sorry, there were mass overdose in Philadelphia, North Philadelphia, and in southern Chicago, or somewhere in Chicago, sorry. So drug traffickers are driving addictions and increasing their profits by mixing fentanyl, which is so dangerous, with the illicit drugs. Tragically, many overdose victims have no idea that they're ingesting deadly fentanyl until it's too late. Fentanyl, and I'll tell you this though, if you were smoking weed, wouldn't you make more money if you just lace the weed with other drugs to make it more addictive? Sure. Isn't that a no-brainer idea? I think it's a no-brainer idea. If you're selling drugs, just mix it everything. Even just put in butane and anything. Even like whatever. That's what comes to my mind. I said just put in like strawberry in there or something. Make it smell good. People love your drugs. Say drugs, it's the best flavors. Say fentanyl-related mass overdose events characterized as 3 or more overdose occurring close in time. And the same location having happened at least 7 American cities in recent months, resulting in 58 overdose and 226 deaths. Cities impacted include Florida, Austin, Texas, Colorado, Nebraska, Missouri, Washington, D.C. This is real America right here. Notice here, tragic events of these are driving. Fentanyl is higher addiction found in 50 states. And I'll go to the end here. Fentanyl is driving nationwide overdose. The CDC estimate that in 12 months, period ending in October 2021, more than 105,000 Americans, I think it's now up to 109,000 Americans died of drug overdose, with 66% of those deaths related to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. Last year, the United States suffered a fentanyl-related death, more fentanyl-related death than guns and auto-related accidents combined. So fentanyl is just killing its millions. In Isaiah chapter 28, verse 7 and 8, Isaiah 28, verse 7 and 8, it says, but those they have erred through wine. How they have erred? They didn't err because they didn't study the Bible right. They didn't err because they're not rightly dividing the word of truth. They erred because of wine and through strong drink and are out of the way. The priests, who are these people? The priests and the prophet have heard. How can a prophet, who's supposed to prophet God people, err through strong drink? They are swallowed up with wine, of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They're erred in vision. So you hear them trying to preach the word of God in the Bible. They can't get it right because the Bible has to do with very much connecting one dot to the other. If you can't focus on that, you will not be able to study the Bible. They stumble in judgment. For all tables are filled with what? Vomit and filthiness. Why are they vomiting? Because they vomit out on the table. Now, this is supposed to be the priest and the prophet. Can you imagine the stink and the problem here? So that they have no place clean. Is this happen? I've heard it happen. There have been pastors that have to defrock because they're on drugs. Sad. There are pastors that they have to send to rehab. That's a good thing, to send them to rehab. You see what the problem is? Don't think that we're in a country with the high penetration, some of the highest penetration in the world of drugs, probably the highest penetration of drugs. And in certain states, the Bible Belt states, the states that are most into Bible have the highest penetration of drugs. People talk about God bless you all the time. Have the highest penetration of drug users in the country and in the world. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, Kentucky, Oklahoma, so forth. These are the most religious areas in America and the most areas in America where people have drugs. Let not anybody think that's probably a more important topic I can talk to you on. Because the tables are filled with vomiting and drugs. We have known pastors that get caught up into crack cocaine, all kind of stuff. This is what's going on. So that's why I think the church is silent. Because how do you talk about a church that's supposed to be teaching abstinence, and yet you have your pastors being caught up in drugs and alcohol? Problem. Genesis 3 verse 4 again says, the serpent said to the woman, you shall not surely die. Drugs will kill you. It will take you out. It's just the problem. It takes a while to take people out. And because people don't die immediately, most people, to be honest, most people don't die of a drug overdose overnight. But there's mass drug deaths, and so this does happen. Sister?
Yes, I just want to share a comment from our YouTube platform. Brother Ernesto notes, the DEA stated that the problem has escalated because recreational drugs have gone from plant-based to synthetic.
Right, very important point. So like we had covered last week, when you're dealing with synthetic drugs, it's a total different, no, keep it over. Oh, you have one over there already? Okay. When you deal with synthetic drugs, you're dealing with a total ball of wax, a total different ball of wax. As I say, the world have never seen what we're seeing right now. We have never seen, because for years now I've seen people on heroin, people doing the nod, where you talk to them and they're hearing a few words from you. So I've seen this. But what we see right now that's going on in certain places and all over the world, but in America it seems to be very bad. We have never seen this before. And this, I believe, is the synthetic drugs. The drugs now are unbelievably destructive. And the numbers show it. You don't have to go further than the numbers. It's a very important point, Brother Ernesto. So notice here, Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident. That who? All men are created where? Equal. And I pause there because it's not the point I'm going to make, but I make this point. That when we deal with drugs, all persons are target. You and I are not. Because we all have dopamine receptors. We all have opiate receptors. And I've often thought, why do we have all these feel-good receptors? Because I realize our normal function, as I say, feeling accepted, is a chemical reaction. And the chemicals that the synthetic chemicals can target is reaction. And you now can feel acceptance by this taking a plant or taking a synthetic substance. And I never knew. Just to feel accepted is something that is a feel. I should say I felt it, but I never thought about it until I read about it. And I say, oh yeah, I guess when I feel rejected, I feel bad. Because the brain has to be able to have a way to process that and give me the feeling. So I say, oh, that feels terrible. They rejected me. And then you say, oh, I feel good, they accepted me. And I realized that some people go through their life and they never really had a proper acceptance where they feel like people accept them. And so they can take a drugs and all of a sudden they feel accepted. But now what happens if the trick becomes an addict? They become an addict to the trick and then they never feel acceptance anymore. And all of a sudden they start permanently feel acceptance. Now they have psychosis, permanent psychosis. Very fascinating. We're dealing with some very technical stuff here. So, but What we did in America as an example to show you all men are created equal. When the crack epidemic was running, President Reagan made it become clear that he only wanted it to be shown in the black community, while they said the penetration of crack was also the same in the white community. But they never reported on it. So most white Americans thought that says only black people love drugs. But everybody have receptors, and everybody want to feel good. Everybody can be so numb or be high and so forth like. So now what they said is because they never tried to fix the problem with the crack epidemic because it was being sent by the white society, especially the deep state. What it is, they made the crack epidemic run out of control, and then it led to other stuff, and now we deal with the opiate epidemic and every other epidemic. And we have no way to deal with it because we never put the systems in place. But all men are created equal. Any sin that you're susceptible to, I am susceptible to it. It just means I say probably there's a sin that I'm susceptible to that might be your thing. But we are all susceptible to sin. That's all it is. Nobody's less than or better than. We're all equal. But this has been a struggle in America from day one. America has been struggling with this concept that says, we all can be fiends, drug fiends. We all can be sex fiends, gambling fiends, lying fiends, stealing fiends, adultery fiends, any fiend. That's just what we are. We're sinners. But some people tell themselves, oh no, I'm better than everybody else. And that's been a struggle. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men is self-evident. You don't need nobody to tell you that. Are created equal. And there's people struggle with that concept. I believe that all of us are created equal. And that they are endowed by their creator. Who created them? Their creator with certain unalienable rights. That means you can't alienate these rights from them. Somebody said, Lloyd, what if you lock them in prison? People are going to use a spoon to dig out of a prison. It's amazing how human beings always try to express a thing. So for me, I understand that you can't enforce or use the military or the police to deal with the drug problem. It has to be something that person deal with in the mind. That's why I'm here talking to you. I want to tell you, don't do no drugs. Nancy Reagan was right, although they flood the black community with drugs. Say no to drugs, people. Unalienable rights, you can't unalienable, but you can decide to restrain yourself. And you should restrain yourself and avoid drugs and all stimulants. That among these are life, because you may be want to live. Liberty, because liberty, and if you don't believe it's self-evident, let's go over to what is that thing over there in the water? The Statue of Liberty. And the pursuit of what? Happiness. Are we pursuing happiness in America? You are pursuing happiness? How do you pursue that happiness, young lady? Oh, just being happy, that's your pursuit? Chasing this happiness down? It is self-evident that human beings want to be happy? Yes? So, if you want to be happy, I'm going to tell you. I believe that the way to pursue happiness is to, number one, avoid drugs. Because sooner or later you're going to end up unhappy. Because pursuit of happy means that not a perception of happiness, but the reality of happy. In other words, when you are accepted, does that feel good? Yeah. See, that to me is a pursuit of happiness. But taking drugs to make yourself feel accepted is not going to work. Does that make sense? No? So among these are life, and to me, drugs kill life. Drugs is against life. It's called anti-biota, or biology. We are biological creatures. If you take something that's against life, it's against life. So, anti-life, we're not for that. So that's why I'm not for drug, because drug will destroy life. Liberty. Tell me somebody's on drugs. Are they free? No, they're addiction. They're not free until they get free from the drugs by going to rehab. I don't say, no, you're not going to rehab. Go to rehab. A person that has to sell himself to get money to buy drugs is not free. And to pursue happiness, you cannot pursue happiness if you're an addict. Any addiction, gambling addiction, lying addiction, person that just lie out every day with somebody that just lie, they're just a compulsive liar. I've dealt with compulsive liars, and it's amazing. Even when they tell you something, like they tell you, say, listen, it's sunny today, you start to question it. So what do you mean it's sunny today? You know there's a trick there. You ever deal with somebody like that? Like you looking outside, it's bright and sunny, and they tell you it's sunny. You're looking at him and thinking, why is he telling me it's sunny? I know there's a lie somewhere. I can't figure out the lie. You ever deal with that? There's people so lie that make you question if it's sunny today. And they tell you it's blue skies. You look at the sky and say it's blue. And you're looking at them and you say, I know there's a trick somewhere there. Because they so lie. You ever deal with somebody like that? They lie, right? Just like they have a problem. They're pursuing happiness. You can't be happy with them. No, because you know there's a trick. And if you know the trick, tell me. I'll read a statement I read earlier, almost there. Notice here, this is from Spalding and Megan collection, page 140. Very important. To a large extent, Satan has carried out his plan. What is Satan's plan? The same plan that Satan had from day one to make you partake of tree, any type of tree, not just a tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden, but any tree on this world that gives you good and evil but ultimately destroy you. Satan's plan is to make us partake of it. Drugs and alcohol to me is the epitome of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, something that would change your perception and make you feel like you're accepted and you're not accepted. All you're doing is destroying your life. I remember recently I was reading, I can't remember if it was ayahuasca or something I was reading about, and you can find online. This guy did it. Oh man, I should have copied that one. But he did this drug, and what the drug does, it brings you into an experience. And he said his experience when he took it was that, was it magic mushroom? He said he took it, and he says, I tell you this before, he took it and a hand grabbed him. That's what he perceived, that the hand grabbed him and pulling underneath the earth. And he was there for 4 days underneath the earth, screaming. And he said he never did drugs after that. He was cured from drugs. He says he was there for 4 days screaming. And for 4 days, in his mind, he was, the hand held him on the ground and kept him underneath the ground, the earth, for 4 days. And he says he screamed for 4 days until he came out of the what they call it? The trip. He came out of the trip after 4 days, and he said he was cured from drugs. He never did drugs after that. And I say, my, what a way to save us all. You can imagine the amount of screaming he did. You can imagine you screaming for 4 days? Do you think he probably vomited and defecated on himself for 4 days? Because how are you on the ground for 4 days? Did he go to the toilet? Did he have to urinate for 4 days? What was happening for him for 4 days? There had to be a trip, right? Because you know you have to go to the toilet within 4 days. Huh? At least to urinate. You think he was peeing on himself up down there while screaming and sweating for 4 days. And he said after that was it. He was cured from drugs. Is that the knowledge of good and evil? Did he experience evil? He sure did. But when people tell you, oh, I did drugs, they never tell you the evil they grow. I mean, if you go to a point where you take drugs until you start selling your own anus or your mouth for sexual pleasure, did you experience evil? Yeah. And then you come out of that, you say, oh, Satan was right. I did experience good. And I experienced what? Evil. Evil. The Lord property is embezzled. God is robbed. The means that has been lent to man to relieve the necessity of the poor and to uplift and sustain the fallen in righteousness and truth is used to please and gratify self by taking lines of cocaine. From the beginning to the end, the crime of tobacco using, of opium and drug medication, drug what? Medication, has its origin in perverted knowledge. Perverted knowledge. It is through plucking and eating of poisonous fruit, through the intricacies of names that the common people do not understand. So when you hear some of these names, the names is so cute. I won't say so many names, but one of the names is like, you're going to go into the Olympics. It's pick. Right? And you go win. Right? You get that? There's some cute names. But the chemical name is something different. But it's like, they say, let's call it pick. Right? Cute, cute, right? And you're going to win. You're going to be like the people, and you're going to stand on the podium, but you're going to be in the first place. You get your gold, they're going to put the gold around your neck if you take the pick. Right? Nice, so cute. But when you read the name, you'll be like, what kind of name? Oh, it's a Latin name. Well, we're back to putting stuff in Latin again, not just the Bible. And people don't know what they're taking. And they're going to win some Olympic, all right. And it's be some horse or donkey riding them. So notice here, and it says, through name that they do not understand, that thousands and tens of thousands life were lost. This great knowledge, supposed to man to be so wonderful, God did not mean that man should have. In other words, God says, you can eat of this tree, but don't do it. God said, I put it there, but don't do it. Satan come and say, eat of it. And we've been eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And over the years, I've seen people just reamed up by these drugs. Legal and illegal. They are using the poisonous products that Satan himself has planted to take the place of the tree of life, whose leaves are for the healing of the nations. Men are dealing in liquors, narcotics, lots of narcotics today, and are destroying the human family. Deadly mixtures are used and make man mad, and murder and violence are prevailing everywhere. That's why mass murders and murders are tied to it. Almost there, Revelation again, chapter 18, verse 23. We read this before, read it again. And the light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. The voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants, who thy merchants? The businessmen, the leaders, Wall Street, that type of thing, were the great men of the earth. For by their pharmakia or pharmaceuticals, original language you can see there, were all for sorceries, were all the nations deceived. Again, Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, again said, and the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eye, and that it was a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and he did eat. Both of them took the kutchi, and they took the hit of the pipe, the crack pipe, the whatever pipe. And the eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves apron. And then for us in our modern time, they'll probably take the fig leaf and they start smoking the fig leaf. It's sad, but true. Okay, so where we are we over here? So notice here, Luke chapter, almost there now. Luke chapter 1, verse 15. Luke chapter 1, verse 15. Take some more text here before we close. And it says, for he shall be great in the sight of the Lord, talking about John the Baptist, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink, and he shall be filled with the Holy Ghost, even from his mother's womb. So notice here, not only Samson's mother was told, don't drink no wine or strong drink. Remember I said to you that a lot of the birth defect, the neurological problems that we have in our society is because the women and the men are drinking so much drugs and alcohol that the kids are going to come out big. If you want to plan ministry-wise, really, if you have the money and the wherewithal and the personnel, you need to go to these places that have a lot of drug use, especially these narcotics that are central nerve depressors. They destroy the nervous system, and you'll have a lot of ministry to be done to kids that are disabled. Because remember, they're already drunk on the drugs and alcohol, and they're going to impregnate each other, whether it be legally or sexual abuse in each other. And they're going to have kids, and kids are going to come out disabled. That's just going to be a fact. And we are seeing horror shows where kids are born in some terrible ways with organs outside of them, all kind of stuff. But the young people, they're just swimming. They're making their little babies swim in a sea of opiates and fentanyls and all this type of stuff from their womb, from the womb. And they mess with the mind. Most of us don't want to deal with this, but we have to deal with this. Just look about what this is saying. He said from the womb. You have a child drawn in a sea of fentanyl and crack and cocaine. What they used to call them, crack babies. Yes. But notice after it spin over to the white community, they start talking about crack babies because now we could talk about the fentanyl babies, the meth babies, the perk babies, Percocet baby. Can you imagine? Say, oh, you little cutie, you was a Percocet baby. Right? This is what's going on in our society. It's going to be a strain on the healthcare industry. Leviticus chapter 10, verse 8 and 9. Leviticus 10, verse 8 and 9. Notice it says here, and the Lord spake unto Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou nor thy sons with thee, when you go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest you die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. We stand before the pulpit, those who preach, we should do this soberly. No strong drink and no wine, and in worse in our days, no opiates, no synthetic brain-altering substance, no marijuana. You will never be able to preach the gospel and give judgment and justice. This is a reality. And if you do this, the Bible says the Lord will kill you. This is a statute forever. I don't care if somebody says, I don't believe in the Old Testament. You will die. God will take you out. Numbers 6, verse 1, 2, 3. Numbers 6, verse 1 through 3. Notice it says here, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when either man or woman shall separate themselves to vow a vow of a Nazarite, to separate themselves unto the Lord. What are they doing? They decide, I'm going to separate myself from the Lord. What are they supposed to do? Like Jesus was a Nazarite from Nazarene. He shall separate himself from wine and what? Strong drink. That means vodka, gin, rum, tonic. I don't know if that's such a thing. Yeah, rum and tonic. And shall drink no vinegar of wine. No what? Adventists don't partake of vinegar. Are you aware of that? Adventists do not partake of vinegar. No vinegar of strong drink. Neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat moist grapes. Or dried grapes. What? I remember one time me and Tamara were coming up from Florida, and we had bought some sugarcane juice. And we were coming up, and I don't know, you know, it was a summertime, I think. Was it summertime tomorrow? Why no? So I was coming up, So I was coming up, and all of a sudden, I don't know if we reach home at this point, but it was days now, I think, and the sugarcane juice started to get a little bit bubbly. We throw it out, because me and Tamara, we're not winos. We follow the Bible, right, Tamara? Follow the Bible. We're going to throw this thing out. We're Adventists of Adventists. We throw this stuff out. We ain't going to drink, even if it just tastes a little bit touched. It was a little touch. We could have said, no, we're not going to know. We're not going to know. We're going to save our money. We pay good money for this sugarcane juice. We ain't going to know it's getting a little bit all excited. And I said to myself, that's why they use this thing to make alcohol. This thing turn fast. You just need probably a little eat, little party, a little tropical, and this thing started to get like all excited. Does that make sense? A Nazarite, what? Who? A Nazarite don't drink nothing or partake of nothing that can ferment. So you drink the sugarcane juice fast before it starts to turn and get excited. Make you feel all euphoric. Next thing you keep wanting to go to Florida, and I say, tomorrow, why you want to keep going to Florida? You want to get restocked on that sugarcane juice? Selective serotonin reuptake are a class of drugs that are typically used for antidepressant in treatment of major depression disorder, anxiety disorder, and other psychological conditions. It increases the risk of bone fracture. Remember, you shall get good and you shall get evil. Notice here, ascletia, which is feeling of inner restlessness, inside of you. Can you imagine you feel inside restless? What does that feel like? You know, I remember I was watching something and somebody say they feel like there's thing crawling inside of them. And I'm thinking, I know creepy crawly, I don't like them. Imagine if you feel like they crawl inside of you. Suicidal ideation, that means you have constant thoughts of suicide, am I killing yourself? No, you're just taking a drugs. You just take something that's supposed to help you for mental health problems, right? Antidepressant. You take the thing for antidepressant and you start thinking about killing yourself. Or you start thinking that says you feel like inner self restless or your bones start fracturing. Is this the tree of the knowledge of good and evil? Sexual dysfunction. Yeah, listen, that gonna make me feel depressed. Does that make sense? Emotional blunting. I just like look. I look at something and I say, man, that's disturbing. And someone will be like, I don't care. Ever deal with someone like that? I'm really clear. Man, that SSRI is making me feel like I don't feel nothing. Numb. SSRI, suicide risk in children, metadata analysis of short duration of randomized clinical trial have found that SSRI use is related to higher risk of suicidal behavior in children and adolescents. For instance, in 2004, US drug FDA analysis of clinical trials on children with major depression disorder found statistical significant increase in the risk of possible suicide ideation and suicidal behavior about 80%, and agitation and hostility about 130%. Clearly, they're shown. This is the government speaking to you here. Conclusion: the study examined publication result of the FDA evaluation of antidepressant conclude that those with favorable results were much more likely to be published than those with negative results. What is saying? When there is negative results, they don't publish the reports. So they say, oh, this is clinically proven, this is something. Yeah, to what is published. And this is what they're saying. Notice here. Furthermore, an investigation of 185 meta-analysis on antidepressants found that 79% of them had authors affiliated in some way to pharmaceutical companies, and that they were reluctant to report caveats of depression. Psalm 69 verse 21 says, they gave me gall for my meat, and in my thirst they gave me vinegar to drink. A Nazarite don't do what? We don't drink vinegar. Nazarite don't drink opium. Gall, the root word there is opium you're looking at. So Christ, they wanted to give some poppy. Christ said, no, we don't do that. Matthew 27 verse 33 through 34. Matthew 27 verse 33 to 34 says, when they came unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say the place of a skull, they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with opium. And when he had tasted thereof, he would not drink. If for 30-something years of your life you never drink anything with vinegar, opium, and you know what they're doing, they want to numb him. So somebody said, Lord, are you teaching that when people are about to die, they shouldn't take opium? I'm not teaching you that. I'm not saying Jesus didn't drink nothing like that. He didn't blunt the taste. He suffered for you and I, and he didn't even take the sedative to not suffer. So we believe that we, as followers of Jesus Christ, we don't use drugs and alcohol. Christ did not use drugs and alcohol in even his deepest study. So if somebody said to me in his deepest trouble, somebody said, Lord, are you saying that? I'm not saying that, I'm just saying that says 100% I can say, I can know what I can say for 100%. For regular day-to-day life, we don't use drugs and alcohol. How about that? Proverbs chapter 14 verse 34 says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. When we sin, we're causing a reproach. Isaiah 51 verse 1 says, cry aloud and spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet and show, this is why I'm doing these things in thorough detail. Show my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. We got to show this. There's a problem. Love too much drugs and fun, party. We live in a time of the antitypical day of atonement. We afflict our souls. Money, as an enjoy, I said, that should be used to help those to live a righteous and true life, to help those who are suffering. The word, the poor, people are using it to hit the crack pipe and the coke pipe all day long. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 25 through 27 says, and every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now we do it to obtain but they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we an incorruptible. I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight I, not as one that beat at the air, because we know what we're doing. We have a bigger aim to get to. We have a bigger pot of gold to get to. We have a bigger lifestyle experience to get to. We are supposed to be the head, not the tail. We're supposed to live a life of sobriety, a life that we are woke. We are woke more than all the people who claim to be woke. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, this earthen vessel of mine, lest by any means when I've preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So the intention for us is to get the best result for the best genetics that we have. Drugs, alcohol, tobacco, and other addictive, dangerous substance pushes almost one, but there is still a remnant. Can we say amen to that? Yeah. They're almost one, but there's still a remnant. There's still some people who live a sober life. There's still some people who are not trying to chase down no crack pipe, not trying to chase down no fermented sugarcane juice. Not trying to chase down nothing. We're just trying to live sober and clean lives and want to live a very healthy lives. As I say, our aim is always we practice the most pure doctrine that we can practice. We practice the most pure lifestyle, the most pure diet that we can find. We don't believe in no genetic engineered stuff. We don't believe in none of these kind of poison. We try to stay away from all we can from anything high fructose corn syrup and all that craziness, because that stuff is given for pigs. We don't believe in none of that food. That food's going to kill you and destroy your brain. We're trying to stay alive where we don't take no legal drugs or illegal drugs. We're doing all of that because the aim is in all aspects of our life, we are practicing the best principles because we want the best result for ourselves. That's how I look at this life. In Psalms 124, verse 1, Psalms 124, verse 1, it's a song of degree by David. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now let Israel say what? If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, when men rose up against us to make us take crack, smoke weed, then they had swallowed us up quick when their wrath was kindled against us. When they told us that says righteousness, we don't need to do righteousness. We just need grace. And if we are believing that, we don't get messed up. When they had told us that says, listen, you know, you're probably being too straight-laced. Yeah, we're not listening to that. We have greater aims and bigger results. When they tell us that, say, listen, there's only one true church, we say, we believe in that. But we're not going to get gobbled up. Because think about it. Your kids are not in the church. I'm going to follow your way. You have no results. I'm going to follow your way. You have no results. You have no young people in this church. Probably I get some incels and some weirdos. And some people were chasing down some Trinity doctrine. You know, it's not stupidness these people chase down. If it had not been for the Lord on our side, we'd have been swallowed up quick. But God was on our side. When their wrath turned against us and they tried to destroy us, we're still here. When many of them, as I say, are in the grave or they're out the church, fighting off the pigs to get food. Then the waters had overwhelmed us. The streams had gone over our soul. Then the proud waters had gone over our soul. We have seen them come and go. In their great fury, taking out countries, doing all these things, we just watch them and say, what happened? They're going to go the way of all the earth to the grave. Blessed be the Lord, who had not given us as a prey to their teeth, because they wanted to eat us up, like how they have eaten their kids. You know, when you eat your kids, that's a terrible thing. That's what the church has done. They've been eating their kids for all these years. They talk about the pagans sacrifice their kids. They sacrifice their kids all the time. All kind of experiment. Show me a group of people that they have experimented on more than you can show me these people in this country. They don't stop getting injections. When you see how, just think about it, they talk about we're so civilized. And what is vaccination? Isn't it a slave that gave us vaccination from Africa? Brother Green was talking about today in the morning for Sabbath school. They're saying that they call him for the angels from Africa and South America. They love them over there. In the evangelical church, the top pastors are some of the evangelicals. Pastors from Africa. Witch doctors. If the Lord was not on our side, they'd have swallowed us up. You saw when COVID came, they wanted to force everybody to take their monkeypox. Because vaccination originally in America was from an African who showed them that you can just take the pus and just put the pus of the whatever was infected into other people and they inoculated. Monkeypox and horse urine. What is witchcraft? They tell you to drink your pee and that's how you're going to get healing. But what they did to American women for years and caused them cancer. Give them horse pee. Premarin. And how many women are taking the horse pee as witchcraft? Pure African witchcraft. But the Lord was on our side. Then the proud waters had gone over us, our soul. Blessed be the Lord who had not given us as prey into their teeth. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowler, because they set a trap for us. And you see, they keep setting a trap. Oh, you have to buckle to this system and that system as you're going to lose your job. And people say, oh, okay, I'll take your monkeypox. Your monkeypox right here. Hit me here, doctor. Because the monkeypox pus will stay in this shoulder, as we're talking about, and it won't leave the shoulder, and you won't have the spike protein messing up people's heart. The snare is broken, and we are escaped, at least for now. And by God's grace, we keep escaping. But why we do what we do here? Because I'm just trying to tell you how I see how it's breaking down, and how they're trapping their citizens and deceiving them and destroying them. Because ultimately, who's behind all of this? All empires, who's behind it is always Satan, to kill people and send them to hell. But we're here trying to stay on the wall to tell you, listen, you look at them coming to attack the city. You all need to take cover. Our help is in the name of the Lord, who had made heaven and earth. We want to praise the Lord. We believe in the Bible because the Bible has been our protection for years. We believe in the word of God. We believe in the spirit of prophecy. We believe that says the things she said, she's a true prophet because everything she says has come through. And she have called it over and over again. When you read her writings and how she talk about drugs, show me where she's wrong. So avoid drugs and alcohol and all stimulant. May God bless you. This is a protection. Don't feel like, oh, I need to test it or try it. Don't try it. Don't be like Adam and Eve. Just don't go. Don't go there. Don't take no crack, no cocaine, no nothing. You avoid those things, God will bless you. You live a sober life. You can live a life to a certain age where you never take a drug or alcohol in your body. And if you have to take something and you're taking it because probably you're in pain and there's some type of massive painkillers to get you through a certain thing or operation, that's a different discussion. But we don't believe in recreational drugs and alcohol and any stimulant. May God bless you towards this end. May you live a life of sobriety. Sister tomorrow will come and sing a song for us. We need to praise the Lord because He have kept us all these years, no matter what was going on in the church or in the world. Thank you.
Please take your hymnals in hand and turn to hymn number 331. Hymn number 331. Oh Jesus, I have promised to serve Thee to the end. Be Thou forever near me, my Master and my friend. I shall not fear the battle if Thou art by my side. No wonder from the pathway if Thou wilt be my guide. Oh, let me feel Thee near me. The world is ever near. I see the sights that dazzle, the tempting sounds I hear. My foes are ever near me, around me and within. But Jesus, draw Thou nearer and shield my soul from sin. Oh Jesus, Thou hast promised to all who follow Thee, that where Thou art in glory, there shall Thy servant be. And Jesus, I have promised to serve Thee to the end. Oh, give me grace to follow my Master and my friend.
Let us pray. Father, we thank You for leading a sober life, living an example where we should follow, or aim to follow to the eyes for our ability. I pray, O Lord, that You may guide us as we go through this week. May You help us that we may practice those things which we have heard. And I ask You, O Lord, that You may help us that we may come to you, not only in our times of need, but also for every time that we overcome to be thankful. I pray that you may help us, that we may purpose in our mind, that we may not do anything that compromise our body, and that you may help us that we may do the right thing. Help us that we may start one day at a time, and I pray that you may guide us and let us listen to the still small voice of the Holy Spirit speaking to us to do the right thing. I pray, O Lord, that you may be with those who have joined us online, be with their family, and I pray also for those who have prayer requests this morning. I ask that you may continue to grant Brother Jose healing and strength, and may you be with our families this week. Thank you, O Lord, for allowing us to be in our right mind and be able to worship together on this Sabbath and prepare us for what's coming up in the week. May you continue to strengthen our faith for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm encouraging you to join us next Sabbath as we start a Sabbath school lesson. And the Sabbath school lesson is the title, The Impending Conflict. And as we deal with the theme of the Great Controversy, we'll be looking at the impending conflict, lesson number 11. Please join us again next week, Sabbath morning, and as we go through our Sabbath school.